And good evening and welcome students, teachers, family members to the 2021 Southwest Washington Regional Poetry Out Loud virtual recognition ceremony. As Monique said, we want to thank you all for joining us tonight via Zoom to celebrate your exceptional work. I'd like to ask everyone in the meeting, and looks like most of you are doing this, but to please ensure your mic stays on mute unless we call upon you so we can hear from each of our speakers without interruption. So I am Nick Shanmack. I'm one of your hosts tonight. And in addition to serving as a regional coordinator for Poetry Out Loud, I am a communications manager on the communications and public engagement team at ESD 112 in Vancouver. My co-host tonight, you heard from her, is the executive director of that team, Monique Dugas.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us. I'm Monique Dugas, as Nick said, Executive Director of Communications and Public Engagement at ESD 112. From Clark County to Thurston County, tonight's participants represent schools from up and down the Western Washington region. As regional finalists, these students are here after countless hours of work, perfecting their recitations and competing against their peers in Poetry Out Loud competitions at their own schools. Before we get the chance to hear from these accomplished students, I'd like to introduce our ESD 112 Superintendent, Tim Merlino, to talk a bit more about the Poetry Out Loud program. Tim?
Thanks, Monique. Good evening and welcome to Poetry Out Loud. I'm Tim Merlino. I'm Superintendent of ESD 112 here in Southwest Washington. I'm really pleased to introduce tonight's Poetry Out Loud program, which encourages high school students to learn about great poetry through memorization and performance. For the past 16 years, high school youth from around the state have participated in Poetry Out Loud, memorizing and performing poetry for live audiences. As you can tell, this Poetry Out Loud event format looks a little different. We're doing everything remotely now because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but I can assure you that the quality of the student performances remain the same. They're excellent. This year, instead of reciting poems in front of a live audience, participating students have recorded themselves reciting their selected poems from memory. Judges have viewed these submissions and evaluated them accordingly. Tonight, we're going to hear from both the judges and students about their experience participating in this virtual event. Same as in years past, the high scores from each regional final will move on to the state competition, and a state champion will move on to nationals. Our region has been approved by the state to advance our top 3 scores to the state competition. Students gain so much more from this experience. Public speaking skills, self-confidence, literature appreciation, and a new outlet for creative expression are just a few of those many takeaways. So thank you all for your support of these remarkable students. And without further ado, let's get started.
Thanks, Tim. So it's important to note that this evening would not be possible without our judges. So we'd like to just take a moment to introduce them to you.
So first up is Michelle Nerland. Michelle is the Public Information Officer for Kelso Public Schools. She has previously served as a Poetry Out Loud judge, chaired the Poetry Anthology at Colorado Mesa University, and earned her degree in English literature. She founded the positive thought nonprofit, The Joy Team, in 2010 and has been inspiring people with uplifting messages ever since.
Up next is Adele White, a retired K-12 arts educator whose career spans 50 years. A former Poetry Out Loud judge as well, Adele was on the planning team and a founding faculty member of Jefferson Performing Arts and Buckman Elementary Arts in Portland and Vancouver School of Arts and Academics.
Our third judge is Effie Triol, the literacy coordinator at our very own ESD 112. She has been in this role for more than 6 years, working previously for Vancouver Public Schools as a teacher, instructional coach, and English language learner coach. She too has served as a Poetry Out Loud judge in previous years.
And finally, we'd like to recognize Allison Klump, administrative assistant for the communications and public engagement team here at ESD 112. In addition to helping to coordinate tonight's Zoom event, Allison served as this year's accuracy judge for the regional final, judging not on performance, but on the technical elements of each recitation.
And Allison is also running the PowerPoint, so kudos to her for doing that. She's doing a great job. Thank you, judges, for volunteering your time and talents to our competition this year. We are very fortunate to have a team of judges with so much experience with poetry out loud. Because a lot goes into scoring recitations, judges are tasked with considering the following criteria: physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, evidence of understanding, overall performance, and, as we noted earlier, accuracy of recitation.
That's right, Monique. And because we weren't able to hold an in-person competition this year, tonight's event is taking on more of an awards ceremony feel. Last week, each of our students recorded and uploaded 2 poetry recitations for our team of judges to score. Now, because the video and audio quality over Zoom is not always the most reliable, as I'm sure many of you have experienced, we aren't asking our students to re-recite tonight what they've already been scored on. Rather, we've come up with a few surprise questions for our participants. So after we've heard from each student, and students, go ahead and unmute yourself when you're called upon, we'll announce the individuals who are moving on to state and play back one recitation from each of our high scorers at the end.
Thanks, Nick. So we'll now kick off our round of questions in alphabetical order. First up, representing River Ridge High School in the North Thurston Public School District is Joey Fausto. Joey recited the poems Difference by Stephen Vincent Benet and The Light of Stars by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Joey, because you have to go first, I'll try to make this an easy one. What drew you to the 2 poems you selected? And between the 2 poems, do you have a favorite line or verse?
I spent probably a lot more time trying to pick up my poems, just trying to find one that connected with me. And these 2, I felt, showed what I feel a lot, where it's kind of just crazy and sometimes it's messy, but you could always come back from them. And probably one of my favorite lines from the 2 poems is, my mind's a map, a mad sea captain drew it, because it kind of conveys this, craziness, like I said before, but still organized.
Thank you for that, Joey. Really appreciate it.
Okay, next up is Faye Greenwald, representing Olympia High School in Olympia School District. Faye recited the poems The War in the Air by Howard Nemerov and Pieta by Kevin Young. Faye, The War in the Air tells the story of soldiers who never came home from war. Pieta also touches on life and death. So what have you discovered during this process about poetry as a medium and how it can serve as a vehicle for expressing what is often difficult to put into words?
I actually have something on this. It's what I talk about a lot when I'm explaining why I like poetry to other people. A lot of students my age feel that poetry is very uppity and aristocratic. And I feel that war poetry questioning religion, poetry that comes from the working class and the people who really don't have a voice, I feel that that poetry is the realest, most beautiful poetry. And I tried to choose poems that come from places where it is hard to speak and where you cannot often put those emotions into words, like the horrors of war and questioning, God. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Faye.
So our next student that we have on our list is Austin Kunkel from North Thurston High School in North Thurston Public School District. And Austin recited Reign of Statues by Sarah Lindsay and Epitaph on the Tombstone of a Child, the last of 7 that died before, by Afra Ben. So I want to just make sure, did Austin happen to join while we were going through some of the other recitations and questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and skip the question for Austin.
Okay, next up is Nicholas Leatham, representing Camas High School and Camas School District. Nicholas recited Sonnet 29 by William Shakespeare and Tarantulas on the Life Buoy by Thomas Lux. So here's your question, Nicholas. Tarantulas on the Life Buoy is, as the title suggests, about tarantulas huddling on a buoy after being saved from drowning. It starts a bit chaotic, but certainly doesn't end that way. What feelings do you draw from it?
I guess I'd have to say it's kind of, you get to a point where it's kind of just like relief and just gratitude that you kind of just draw from these tarantulas that are now on this life buoy getting hauled in from the middle of a swimming pool. It starts out all like sad and talking about how they're probably going to drown, but then the person who you're talking about in this poem has done this thing for them, and you can just like feel this relief, and it starts going into what that now is going to do for you in return since you've helped them.
It's a great poem. Thank you, Nicholas.
So the next student on our script is Betty Nelson, representing Trout Lake School in Trout Lake School District within ESD 112. And Betty recited Don't Bother the Earth Spirit by Joy Harjo and Siren Song by Margaret Atwood. And I haven't seen Betty, but want to make sure that I give her an opportunity if she does happen to be on the line right now. Betty, are you there? Okay, we'll go ahead and skip the questions with Betty.
All right, so next up is Cooper Sims, representing Concordia Christian Academy in Tacoma. Cooper recited Cartoon Physics Part 1 by Nick Flynn and I Am the People, the Mob by Carl Sandburg. Cooper in Cartoon Physics, author Nick Flynn suggests that children should not necessarily be focused on the harsh realities of life. How did this poem land for you, considering we're in the midst of a pandemic that has certainly impacted every kid's childhood in one way or another?
Am I allowed to ask you to repeat the question?
No problem. It's a tricky one. So the question is, author Nick Flynn suggests in Cartoon Physics that children should not necessarily be focused on the harsh realities of life, that they should be able to have their innocent childhood. Yet we're in the midst of a pandemic that has impacted every kid's childhood in one way or another. So I'm just wondering, how does this poem land for you, considering all of that?
Yeah, definitely the pandemic has impacted us. And it was my freshman year, that didn't really get a solid end that we all expected. And I'm grateful that I was not like a 8th grader graduating or a senior graduating, missing out a bigger experience. I think the reality of COVID is scary, and it's something that we don't all want, but we have to get through because it's life. And yeah, even though it's harsh for kids.
Thank you so much, Cooper.
Our next student representing Stadium High School in Tacoma Public Schools is Anastasia Snellgrow. Anastasia recited Where the Wild Things Go by Dee Gilson and Brother, I've Seen Some by Kabir. Anastasia, I know I saw you on the meeting this evening. So Where the Wild Things Go introduces us to a grown-up version of the character Max from the children's book Where the Wild Things Are. Was this connection to such a classic story part of the reason that you selected this poem?
Yes, actually. Um, I I grew up with the story Where the Wild Things Are. And it was it was my first introduction to literature, and a story. And it wasn't the book itself, but my mom had a CD of it, and so she would play it. So it did feel like it was a recitation. And so when I came across this poem, Where the Wild Things Go, uh, I fell in love with it instantly, seeing the idea of a grown-up Max, but it wasn't just a grown-up Max, it was the story of a childhood star, somebody who is tainted by stardom so quickly, and the effects and then the rebound. So I fell in love with the story of the poem just as much as I fell in love with the story of the book.
Thanks, Anastasia. Great answer.
Okay, our next student is Micah Stewart from Cedar Tree Classical Christian School in Ridgefield. Micah recited A Fit of Rhyme Against Rhyme by Ben Jonson and The Salutation by Thomas Traherne. Micah, A Fit of Rhyme Against Rhyme is a kind of sarcastic take on rhyming in poetry. What was it about this tongue-in-cheek piece that spoke to you?
Well, that's interesting that you asked me that. Our rhetoric teacher actually chose this one for our whole class to memorize. And at first I wasn't super happy with it because I thought it was kind of a strange poem. But as I learned it, as I kind of internalized it, I realized, oh, wow, he's doing this amazing job with the words of, mocking different styles of poetry and rhyming, but still using that same structure. And so actually I had to grow in an appreciation for that instead of actually having it, jump out at me at first. So.
Very interesting. Thank you, Micah. Great answer.
So our final student question this evening is for Bethany Touchart, representing Battleground High School in Battleground Public Schools. And Bethany recited Don't Let Me Be Lonely by Claudia Rainkin and At Noon by Reginald Gibbons. Bethany, from airport security to a nursing home, Don't Let Me Be Lonely touches on a variety of themes, including human connection, the American dream, sadness, and truth. Which theme in this poem was most impactful to you and why? And Bethany, we're not able to hear you. I wonder if you need to unmute. Well, maybe we can come back to Bethany. Bethany, let us know if you are able to get your mic working. Hopefully you can. I know that this is really a sign of the times, right? With our COVID pandemic poetry out loud, sometimes there are technical glitches. So hopefully we can come back to you, Bethany.
Well, while we're waiting to see if Bethany can get her mic straightened out, I would like to just thank again all the students for thinking on your toes and responding to these questions, in the middle of a live Zoom. And we're not going to get to the scores quite yet in terms of who's moving on to state, but this, I think, would be a great opportunity to hear from one of our judges. So Adele White, would you please say a few words about your experience with being a judge for Poetry Out Loud this year? And you're on mute as well. So if you can unmute, please.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello. Well, I first of all want to say that it was different to watch this on video. I really prefer in my heart to see live kids or live people performing. It's more intimate, and I love live theater and live poetry. However, there was something very special about the intimacy of being all by myself in a room watching. It was just like the two of us were there as you were performing. And right now I can't stop smiling because there was something so beautiful. It's so great to meet you in person, to see you in person and speaking spontaneously. I encourage every single one of you, whether you're one of the finalists or not, to keep on going. You were all very, very good, and you all belonged in the finals. And so I just encourage you to continue, regardless of what happens tonight. And it was a wonderful experience, and I was honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much. Anytime I can hear young people perform is a great time for me.
Thanks, Adele. We want to see if Bethany was able to get her microphone working.
Yeah, go ahead, Bethany. If you are able to
Yeah,
talk.
sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go back to your question. So from the airport security to a nursing home, Don't Let Me Be Lonely touches on a variety of themes, including human connection, the American dream, sadness, and truth. Which theme in this poem was most impactful to you and why?
The most impactful theme of this poem to me was really the connection between longing to see somebody and wanting to have that feeling of connection again, and that like breathing of life and having someone long for you. And I just really connected with that because my grandmother is in a nursing home and I would love for her to feel that again.
So really a personal connection. Thank you, Bethany.
Well, and before we share the names of the students moving on, Adele's comments made me think about the fact that, as students were needing to record themselves performing those recitations, you didn't necessarily have the energy of a live audience to feed off of. So I think a very unique challenge for all of these students to gin up that passion and sort of dramatic performance, by yourself in a room in front of a camera. So great job again. And with that, in no particular honor, I'm pleased to share the names of the 3 students from our region who will be moving on to the Poetry Out Loud state final. And I have a rather large envelope. You can see it here.
Like the Academy Awards.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to the state final, we have Micah Stewart, Cedar Tree Classical Christian School, Cooper Sims, Concordia Christian Academy, and Bethany Tuchart, Battleground High School.
Thanks, Nick. Congratulations to the 3 of you for advancing to state, and congratulations to all of our school champions for making it to the regional final. We know it took a lot of hard work and dedication to make it this far and represent your school on a regional level. As we conclude tonight's event, we'd like to play one recitation from each of our top scorers. Now, we've tested out the video to make sure that everything works, but what you see at home will ultimately depend on internet connection. So don't blame us if it's a little bit choppy. If you're having trouble hearing the video or it isn't synced up with the audio, don't worry. We will post these recitation videos along with tonight's ceremony on our website. Just head to esd112.org/news, or you can follow ESD112 on our social media channels. So before we watch the videos, I want to just give a big shout out to Nick Shanmack for coordinating tonight's event. It was extra challenging this year because of our need to be remote, and a huge thanks to Allison Klump and Heidi Barnes on the ESD112 team for making tonight's event such a success. I went off script, I'm sorry guys, but I felt the need to tell you thank you too, because this is really a success and a momentous occasion, our first Zoom Poetry Out Loud. So with that, give us a moment to begin the video playing and enjoy the performances.
Don't Let Me Be Lonely by Claudia Rankine. At the airport security checkpoint on my way to visit my grandmother, I am asked to drink from my water bottle. This water bottle? That's right. Open it and drink from it. At the airport security checkpoint on my way to visit my grandmother, I am asked to take off my shoes. Take off my shoes? Yes, both please. At the airport security checkpoint on my way to visit my grandmother, I am asked if I have a fever. A fever? Really? Yes, really. My grandmother is in a nursing home. It's not bad. It doesn't smell like pee. It doesn't smell like anything. When I go to see her as I walk through the hall past the common room and the nurse's station, old person after old person puts out his or her hand to me. "Stephen?" one says. "Anne?" another calls. It's like being in a third world country, but instead of food or money, you are what is wanted. Your company. In third world countries, I have felt overwhelmingly American, calcium-rich, privileged, and white. Here, I feel young, lucky, and sad. Sad is one of those words that has given up its life for our country. It's been a martyr for the American dream. It's been neutralized, co-opted by our culture to suggest a tinge of discomfort that lasts the time it takes for this and then for that to happen. The time it takes to change a channel. But sadness is real because once it meant something real. It meant dignified, grave. It meant trustworthy. It meant exceptionally bad, deplorable, shameful. It meant massive, weighty, forming a compact body. It meant falling heavily. And it meant of a color, dark. It meant dark in color to darken. It meant me. I felt sad.
A Fit of Rhyme Against Rhyme by Ben Jonson. Rhyme, the rack of finest wits, that expresseth but by fits true conceit, spoiling senses of their treasure, cozening judgment with a measure but false weight, wresting words from their true calling, propping verse for fear of falling to the ground, jointing syllabs, drowning letters, fastening vowels as with fetters they were bound. Soon, as lazy thou art known, all good poetry hence was flown, and art banished. For 1,000 years together, all Parnassus's green did wither, and wit vanished. Pegasus did fly away, at the wells no muse did stay, but bewailed, so to see the fountain dry, and Apollo's music die. All light failed. Starveling rhymes did fill the stage, not a poet in an age worth crowning, not a work deserving bays, not a line deserving praise, Pallas frowning. Greek was free from rhyme's infection, happy Greek by this protection was not spoiled, whilst the Latin, queen of tongues, is not yet free from rhyme's wrongs, but rests foiled. Scarce the hill again doth flourish, scarce the world a wit doth nourish, to restore Phoebus to his crown again, and the muses to their brain as before. Vulgar languages that want words and sweetness, and be scant of true measure, tyrant rhyme hath so abused, that they long since have refused other seizure. He that first invented thee, may his joints tormented be, cramped forever. Still may syllabs jar with time, still may reason war with rhyme, resting never. May his sense, when it would meet the cold tumor in his feet, grow unsounder, and his title be long, fool, that in rearing such a school was the founder.
Cartoon Physics, Part 1, by Nick Flynn. Children under, say, 10 shouldn't know that the universe is ever expanding, inexorably pushing into the vacuum. Galaxies swallowed by galaxies, whole solar systems collapsing, all of it acted out in silence. At 10, we are still learning the rules of cartoon animation. That if a man draws a door on a rock, only he can pass through it. Anyone else who tries will crash into the rock. 10-year-olds should stick with burning houses, car wrecks, ships going down, earthbound, tangible disasters, arenas where they can be heroes. You can run back into a burning house. Sinking ships have lifeboats. The trucks will come with their ladders. If you jump, you will be saved. A child places her hand on the roof of a school bus and drives across a city of sand. She knows the exact spot it will skid, at which point the bridge will give, who will swim to safety, and who will be pulled under by sharks. She will learn that if a man runs off the edge of a cliff, he will not fall until he notices his mistake.
Wow, amazing work, guys. Just awesome. Again, if your video was a little choppy there, please check out our website or our social media channels. We'll post it. The performances are just, professional speaking careers are waiting for all of you if that's the career route you guys want to go in. So thank you again to the teachers, administrators, judges, our friends in the media, friends and family for being here, virtually at least, to support these students. And to all of our student performers, again, great job to all of you. And thanks to everyone on the ESD 112 team, Heidi Barnes, who created tonight's graphic, Tim Merlino, and our judges, Allison, Michelle, Effie, and Adele. Thanks to Judy, Audrey, and the team at the Washington State Arts Commission, and to Monique for co-hosting tonight. So stay safe, everyone, and that'll do it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Take care.